Hello everybody and welcome to another photography talk. And this time I'm going to talk to you about some photographs that I didn't took. It's a 1952 road trip with a Vespa. Before we begin, as usual, a little message. If you want to support the channel, check out my books. There's Lasting Photographs. By the way, the hardcover version just came out. A beautiful novel with a lot of very good reviews online, and this is something very light to read, very nice to read, and it's something about the importance of photography also. So that's a good reading. If you are in something more technical, Inject Fine Art Printing, the last book I published, very complete guide to start to inkjet printing your photographs. And as usual, Photography Death Manual that contains all the basics that you need to know if you want to take photography seriously. And also this has had really good reviews on Amazon. The last one was fantastic, and so check it out. And this will be a very nice way to support this channel. And also t-shirts, all the links are down there in the description. This said, let's talk about the 1952 road trip. It was taken by my father and a friend, and it was taken in 52. You have to figure out how Italy was after World War II. Italy, that was the long time of World War II, and finally Italy was starting to be again free to grow. And my father, he had to delay a little his degree in engineering, and so in 52 he had his degree. I think in 51 or the beginning of 52 he had his degree, and he got a job in Piemonte, in Asti. He got a job as a teacher in a technical school. So he had a salary coming in, he had a lot of free time. By the way, I always say there was the best paid work for the hours work, because he had the salary going on also for all the summer, but 3 months without being in school was a lot of free time. So he had finally free time, he had the money, and he got Vespa, and with a friend he decided to do a very nice trip around Italy. And right now, just check the show here, the slideshows. If you are interested just to see some old pictures of Vespa, check the slideshow, and after the slideshow I will talk you more about this trip and the meaning of this trip. Okay, the images that you saw are, I think, really, for me, are fantastic to see, because it's a side of my father that was there much before I arrived, and so it's very interesting to see that. But it's historically very interesting to see these different places in different times. So that's very interesting. And the road trip was decided in a way, and by the way, he did that for a couple of years, I think 51 and 52, or 52 and 53, and they decided to try all the passes, the mountain passes that were done by the Giro d'Italia, the bicycle race, important bicycle race. So they decided, okay, we take the Vespa and we do all the mountain passes and these kind of things. And you saw just a little part of the trip. The little part was from the Piemonte area where he lived. They went up to Aosta Valley, they passed the Gran San Bernardo and went down in Switzerland, in Geneva. So that's a part of the trip. I have other negatives around, and that's something that will be for another time. Something that is really fantastic is the fact that I have all these memories because there were negatives. I saw some of the pictures in small prints, but when I found the negatives, I found much more pictures, and it was much more fun. And by the way, if we think about right now, if we take photographs and we want to have them digital images, and we want to have them preserved for the future, we need a lot of backups and all these kind of things, adapt the images to the change of format and all this. What was that saved these images? The most simple things. I found this plastic bag with inside a lot of this metallic canister that were the original canister where the film was in, and inside the canister there was the film rolled up and inserted in the canister, the developed film inserted in the canisters. And this preserved the negatives absolutely perfectly. Something very simple but very efficient. So there was no need to do something very complex to preserve film. It was just put in a canister and it was there. There are some scratches on them, and that's kind of normal, but it's part of the age, and still I have the images and I can understand the images. So that was a very nice find, and obviously I found a lot of other pictures, not just about this trip. Something that you can notice in the images, when you look at the front of the Vespa, of the scooter, you can see some flags on it, and those are the flags, and I have all them, and that's another fantastic find. These are all the flags that memory of the passes. In this case is the San Bernardo Pass, that is the one that you saw in the slideshow. And these were the passes that they went to, and with altitude and everything else. And here there's all the other trips that they made. This one was in the Val d'Aosta, the other one was Stelvio, and so on. There are all the passes in the Dolomites and the east area of Europe. Albertville, place where they were, Pass of the Tre Croci, Madonna di Campiglio, and so on. It's as you can see, it's really a lot of different flags, and it's really impressive because this is the Matterhorn. So they were here and Brule Val d'Aosta. So this is from the trip you saw the pictures. So a lot of these, Genève, when they arrived in Genève, Le Mans, the Le Mans Lake, it's really little San Bernardo, not the great one, not the Grande, the Petit, and is the Aosta Valley, and so on. So it's very fun to have all this in my home, and I'm thinking about some project with this, but I still have to invent why. So something more about this trip, just to give you an idea. When the war started, was here was the bombs arrived, I think, in around 41 or something like that. So my father was already 15 and was already a teenager, and he lived all that, and it's pretty nice to read. I have a lot of letters. He was studying in a school a little bit far from home, and so there are all the letters going back and forth. And at a certain point, they had to evacuate the Desio school in Milan. It was near Milan. They had to evacuate that because Milan was going under heavy bombing. So they moved to Chieri, that was near Turin. He moved and changed another school that he didn't like it much. But something interesting is in the letters that he started to write things like. It's good because the refectory where we got to eat is also the safe place for the bombs, so at least we don't have to skip the meal and all these kind of things. So you can see that something really bad was going on. A couple of years later, when he was probably 16 or 17, something like that, just to give you an idea, the school decided we have to close down because the bombings, and he managed, the school didn't let them out without the permission someone to get in them, but his parents were not close, so he managed to call a person he knew in Turin that arrived and signed for him. And he always told this thing that he left the school in the early afternoon, I think late morning, early afternoon, and he had to do something that was probably 100 miles trip, but he had to hitchhike and walk and do all these kind of things. At a certain point he found a truck that was shipping tomatoes that was going in that direction, so all these kind of things. And he arrived close to, in Casale, close to his hometown. He arrived around 2 a.m. And at that point he had to borrow a bicycle from a relative and do 9 miles with a bicycle to arrive at his town. So this is just the idea and the mood. And my father was always in a good situation because small town, they didn't have many bombings. They only had one bomb. It was basically couple of planes that decided they didn't want to carry the bomb back, so they decided to, okay, who can get the the charge tower, and but still was really heavy. There was a lot of fear of Nazis. He still, when he was 60, 70, he still dreamt sometime at nightmares about Nazis coming in. Something very stupid. One day he was at his home and Nazis arrived and asked for his father. And his father was not there, was in the field working, and so they come on our car and drove to the field and found his father. And that all was terrifying. At the end, they just wanted my grandfather to repaint some places. He was a very good handyman, so it just make him work, and also they paid it a lot. But my father still had nightmare about the Nazis arriving at the door. So just to give you the idea. This said, there was the war. He had to suspend his study for a while. After the war finished, he had to took the high school exam, and he decided to do the equivalent of 2 years in one and just go as private and take the high school degree. He got that, so he went to the engineering university in Turin, and all started to go. So finally, you imagine a lot of destruction around. If you look at the pictures of Turin from the tears, there's still a lot of damages from the bombings and all these kind of things. And he managed to get get his degree, get a job as a teacher, first job that came out, he got it, and finally was freedom. So the fact that after years of fascism and the war and everything, he was finally free. So to get a Vespa and drive around, cross the borders, go in Switzerland, all these kind of things were a huge symbol of freedom. And so this is the really impressive things. And another thing that for me personally was impressive looking at this picture is that I noticed one thing. If we want to do the same right now, we cannot. It's very simple. With a teacher salary or a normal salary, you cannot afford to quickly buy a Vespa, and most of all, you cannot afford to stay out in an hotel all the time you want with a salary. At the time, but until the 80s, with a month of salary was normal to do 3 weeks of vacation for a family of 4 people. We did it. My father was in a good position, so we did it in a good level. But it was also the basic work position. They gave enough. There was to go and take a vacation. Perhaps it was not in an hotel, but in a rented place or something like that. But still, they were able to do 2 or 3 weeks of vacation for a family with a month's salary. Right now, with a month's salary, you can do probably, if you are 4 people, you arrive at a week, no more. I see now 2 people going out for 2 weeks. It's twice the month's salary. So that's the difference. And at the time, they were able to do that because the salaries and the cost of life were at a different relation. There was no all the things that you think what changed, and it changes something simple: taxes. Just to give you an idea, when my father did this trip, the equivalent of the sale tax actually is a value-added tax, but at the time was 1 or 2%. They raised it to 2 and decided to go back at 1 because raising it was not making more money coming in. So it was 1%. Right now in Italy, the VAT, the sales tax, is 22%. Taxes on the salaries were the same, much lower, and other things. So if you think why now we cannot afford that, it's very, very simple. Taxes. It's nothing more than that. And taxes implies also that it's harder to find job. At the time when the war ended, everybody was able to find a job. There were a lot of jobs going on. A lot of big projects. He ended up working for one of the biggest project in Italy. There was a power plant, an hydroelectric power plant in Valle d'Aosta, by the way, a place where he passed by in this trip. And that was normal. A lot of things were going on. Right now, nothing is going on. When he worked at the power plant, you remember that workers came to him almost every day telling, oh, sorry, but I have found a better place to go to work at Olivetti, better salary or something like that. And so they started to contract in some way and, okay, give you a rise and all these kind of things. It was normal. Right now, the unemployment is, I don't know, I think it's 12% generally, but if you are below 40, something as 30% or something like that. So it's crazy. And all this is because socialism, taxes, and all these kind of things that are the consequences of socialism. Bureaucracy that complicate everything and all that. So right now, if you want to take a trip like this, you must be a person with a lot of money. There's no way that with a normal salary, average or less than average salary, you can get a scooter or something and travel around as they did. So this is impressive, and it's very sad to see that what we obtain in the years is a decline. It's not that we arrived at a position where we are more free, or we are not more free. We have much more limitations in everything, and we have much less money to do what we love to do and what we want. And a trip like this, it's one of the best way to learn. It's culture, it's a way to grow. You meet different people, you meet different culture, you see different places. So it's a fantastic way to grow, and it's fantastic to do it when you are young and you just go and you are trying to figure out who you are in the world. But if more world you see, and easier it is to figure out who you are, and to see the option, and to see the full potential of yourself and the humankind. But right now that is all ended, and it's something that is really not possible unless you have someone behind you that support you really strong. And by the way, another thing is that when my father did this in 52, it was from a family that was not really wealthy, but they were good, and they had never had problems. But 52, all was totally reset. All the savings that my grandparents had, they disappear because inflation, because change of the money and everything else, all disappear. So they were from scratch, and you can see everything was reset in 45. In Italy it went on until 48, before something was a little bit stabilized and we had a new form of government and everything. So from 48 to 52 was 4 years, and they were from zero, we have zero, to I can take a Vespa and go around for a month or two during summer. So that is a fantastic thing. And there's not much things to say, much more things to say about this, or better, there's a ton of things to say about this, but I can go on for 2 hours. So the only things I want to add is look at technically these images and the quality of the things that you can perceive in the photographs. The film was an Agfa Gewart that was really overexposed, but still scanning the film, I was able to take it, to have every detail come out, and it's impressive in some images. The latitude of the film, the dynamic range, as it's called now in digital, the dynamic range of the film is pretty impressive, even if was absolutely overexposed. And that's something again that is fantastic, how a small piece of film can contain so many information. And these are all things that I was able to find because they were not digital images. So think about that, and when you take digital images, think about it. So this is all. If you have questions or other things, curiosity about the trip and everything, just let me know in the comments and we can talk about it, because I don't want to be too long. I'm sure I already have been too long. So thank you for watching. Again, if you want to support this channel, please, photography, the F manual, inkjet fine art printing, and lasting photographs. These are really good books and good way to support me. And t-shirts also. Everything is down in the description. This said, keep creative, stay free, and try to have fun. Thank you for watching. See you next time.